good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everybody who's joining us today. Wherever you are joining from, we welcome you to this show. I'm Lisa Wisner, the host of JEDI Talks, a space where we share conversations about committing ourselves to examining our own personal beliefs and habits, and also educating ourselves and others about the JEDI way. JEDI Talks is all about positive action towards justice, equity, diversity, inclusion, belonging, and advocacy. And yes, if you are a fan of the epic space opera Star Wars, rest assured that the Force is indeed strong within this space. The JEDI way is all about recognizing that we are all here with a force within us. And when we're spurred into action, we can actually be agents of change. Yes, the change that we wish to see in the world is definitely within us. And so if you're joining us today, you're part of the energy that's making the JEDI way strong. So we thank you so much for joining us today. We recognize that while so many people on this planet have an opportunity to live, the simple act of living a full life seems unapproachable and unreachable for some. And so it's important for us to make sure that regardless of race, gender, sexual orientation, or other identities, that we do not make our fellow humans feel unable to be safe and participate in what I like to call living a full life, capitalizing on your full potential. So today we're celebrating Pride Month, and I am so excited because I have some friends with me. Welcome everyone. I'm so excited. So for those of you who may not know, June is Pride Month, and for this entire month, we have dedicated ourselves to uplifting LGBTQIA+ voices, celebrating our community, our culture, and all that supports the rights of everybody and the humanity that we are. So these fabulous guests that we have with us today are going to share some information about our community and what Pride means for us. But I would like to ask you, audience members, those of you who are watching right now, let us know in the comments, in the chat, any questions you have. But right now, tell us, where are you joining from? Maybe what country? Maybe you're joining from your home. Maybe you're at work. Maybe you're in a boat somewhere. I have no idea where you are. Share where you're joining us from. And as you're doing that, I'm going to ask our panelists today to introduce themselves. So we're going to go ahead and get started with Reverend Dana. Hi, Reverend Dana. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
My name is Reverend Dana Worsham. I'm senior pastor at St. Paul United Church of Christ here in Corpus Christi. I am in my apartment, and I live on Oso Bay, and my patio, Tom's been to my patio. It overlooks Oso Bay, and it's absolutely wonderful. I was sitting out there earlier drinking my coffee this morning. So I hope everyone has had a great morning like I have, and I'm looking forward to this show.
Oh, I am so glad. You just painted the most perfect morning. So I welcome you to the show and all that light and energy that's, emanating from you. So welcome to the show, Reverend Dana.
Well, and one more thing, if I may. Yes. Those 3 letters in front of my name, just ignore those. I'm just simply Dana.
Okay, Dana. We appreciate you. We love you. Thank you so much. Next is Tom. How's it going, Tom?
Good morning, everyone. My name is Tom Taglabue, and I am currently the president of the Mosaic Project of South Texas, better known around as Pride Corpus Christi. My pronouns are he and him, and I'm coming to you from my dining room in Corpus Christi, which is just a little bit away from Dana. I do have a slight view of Corpus Christi Bay, but the mosquitoes are too bad out there, so I'm not out there enjoying them right now.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So isn't it wonderful living here in our community where, we're at the bay. We're overlooking the water. It's just beautiful, right? When you live in a community like that. Love it.
It's spectacular. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Welcome, Tom. Crystal, how's it going?
Yes, it's going great. I'm so happy to be here. I'm Crystal Garcia of Revolve One Podcast. I'm coming out of Corpus Christi, Texas. I actually live in the Bluff, so I'm kind of near the Oso, but I don't have the best view of it. But I'm super happy to be here.
I'm so excited that you're here. So I have to tell y'all that when I was first thinking about celebrating Pride Month on the JEDI Talk, the first person who said, "Sign me up," was Crystal Garcia. So Crystal, I thank you so much for leading the charge. But I also want to let you all know we have some amazing people here with us. So we also have Leticia Wilson. How's it going, Leticia, my motivator? Hello, everyone. So happy to be here. We're so happy you're here, Leticia. Leticia is joining us from Corpus Christi, Texas. Thank you so much, Leticia. So we're actually going to go ahead and get started very swiftly with a question to you, panelists. I want you to tell me, what does Pride Month mean to you? We're talking about June being all about Pride. What does Pride Month mean to you? Reverend Dana, you want to get us started?
Sorry, I had to take a drink of coffee. Pride brings back memories of the very first Pride that I went to. I promise this is not a long story. I was in the military for quite some time, many years ago. And after I got out, just, Don't Ask, Don't Tell had been implemented like a week when I got out. So I had never been able to go to a Pride celebration or anything like that. And the first one I went to was back, I'm from a little town northeast of Atlanta. So I got to go to an Atlanta Pride. This was back in 1999. And I remember being so overwhelmed at the tens of thousands of people and just being proud of who they were, who they are, still are today, and the straight allies that were there. And it was just so emotional. So every Pride year, it brings back that memory of it's okay who I am, and I'm proud of who I am. And it's just an honor to be on the Mosaic Pride Board, and it's just a time of celebration of who we are.
I love that. I mean, you said the word celebration. I feel like we should have some music in the background while we're doing this. So, yes. Oh, I love it. And when you said the thousands and thousands of people, where was that? Where was that Pride Parade?
Atlanta.
In Atlanta. Wow. So
Yeah,
I can imagine.
They have, I think Atlanta usually runs second to San Francisco in gay population. So it's like, I think close to 200,000 people of all different walks of life, gay and straight, bisexual, transgendered, queer, show up to the Atlanta Pride every year. It's a huge, huge, huge event.
Wow.
So, yeah. So my first official Pride Parade was that. Some years before, when I was still in the military, I lived in Long Beach, California. I was stationed in Oceanside at Camp Pendleton. And anyway, some friends, the Pride Parade was going to happen in Long Beach, which is just south of LA. And I'm like, I can't go. The news media is going to be there. You know, I'm still in the military. But if you know you're not in uniform, you know, you don't be seen on camera then. And my friend says, don't worry, we'll protect you. And so they did. But I was scared. I was so scared. And but they like kind of surrounded me right there on the sidewalk of the parade route, so I could at least see the parade. So that was actually my first one. So yeah, a long history of a journey of learning about Pride and being able to be open about who I am.
I love that. Wow. Well, welcome to the show. And I can't wait to learn more from you because it sounds like we have a lot to learn from you. Tom, you want to tell us what Pride means to you?
Dana, thank you for that story because it resonates a lot with me too. For many of us who in the LGBTQI community who struggled with coming out, Pride was that little baby step you had to take to be comfortable, to not live in fear, to have some validation and affirmation of who you are. So when I was in Austin, living in Austin, went to my first Pride parade, and like Dana, I was in the background. I was scared to death. I was in a political career, government career, that I was afraid that if I came out, my career was over. And then through a gradual 15-year coming out process and going to a number of prides and seeing the acceptance and the validation that the community gave you as an LGBTQI plus member was just, it opened up doors. And then years later, when I moved to Corpus Christi back home after 23 years away, one of the things I wanted to do was to be involved in Pride. And it took me until my retirement, towards the end of my government career, to get involved in Pride. And when I fully retired, I committed to immersing myself in this cause and finding a way to help give those folks in this community who may be fearful, who may be unsure of the acceptance level in the business community, in churches, in everyday life, that there is an avenue for you, there is a place for you in the LGBTQI plus community. There's a place for you to live openly, freely, truthfully, and that we affirm you, we value you, we respect you, you have dignity, and you're worth it.
Wow. Can you I'm going to drop the mic, Tom. That was really good. Oh, wow. I love that. I feel like that's a t-shirt. Oh, that's like the core values of an organization, right? You're valued, you're appreciated. I obviously cannot remember everything you said, but it was absolutely perfect. And I can't wait to rewind this show and write all of that down, because that needs to be on a poster somewhere. So Tom, thank you so much for that representation. What about you, Crystal?
I know, right? How am I supposed to follow that, Tom?
Yeah.
Gosh. No, I love it though. And you know, I'd say I'm fairly new to celebrating Pride myself, like openly, because my first Pride was in 2019. I don't think, I think they had only started in like 2016, right? But I had never even been to one, and I ended up being in the 2019 Pride Parade. So it was like just super like liberating, because I felt like not only did I have a better sense of who I am, which I realized I am not a straight individual, and that's okay. I'm a proud bisexual woman. But it took me like years to really figure that out. And so that Pride 2019, that was just like that explosion of like happiness and acceptance with not only myself, but within my community. I felt seen and I felt validated. So it was like such an amazing experience. And I actually lost my voice during, I think, the Pride Parade, but also the block party. It was such a good time, y'all. And I didn't plan this out because we had Poetry Night Pride a little bit later that month, and I couldn't even present my own work because I was still so like, I didn't have my voice back yet. But you know what, honestly, I wouldn't change it for the world. I yelled my head off and I had such a great time. So I absolutely loved it. To me, I think Pride just means, being able to, accept yourself and love yourself and love whoever you want to love and be totally okay with that, and know that you're valid and you're seen.
That is so amazing. Oh my goodness. It almost sounds like a freedom, like a liberation, almost like finding your tribe, right?
Yes.
So wow, exactly. You realize there's more people like me. Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Yay.
And we know how to celebrate and have a good time, and just, just be there for each other, just be supportive of each other. So that's such an amazing feeling that we have that here in this local community.
Yes. So I did want to start us off with just a little bit of education. So for those of you who are familiar with JEDI Talks, we definitely have some education, but I want to give a shout out to Rudy Garcia. Welcome, Rudy. For those of you who don't know who Rudy is Crystal's sister. Crystal's brother. I am so sorry.
Hey, sometimes, he's out there. He'll take it.
Yes, love it, sis. Sorry about that mix-up, but thank you so much for being here, Rudy. We really appreciate you and your support. But we definitely want to make sure that we're priming you for some information of what Pride actually means. And so sometimes when I hear Pride Month, we see the flag, right? It's like, wow, the Pride flag is out. So I did want to share just a little bit about what the flag actually means. And so what does the flag actually mean to y'all? When you see these words here, Crystal, Tom, when you see these, and Reverend Dana, what does the Pride flag mean to you?
Celebration.
Celebration. I love that.
It's a representation, a public representation of my life and my existence.
I love it. I love it. So when you see the Pride flag, it makes you feel like represented, and wow, I'm accepted here.
And I also feel like the Pride flag really shows the diversity within the LGBTQ plus community. So I really do love that, because, you can't have you know, a rainbow, a beautiful rainbow without all the, you know, amazing colors that are within it. So
Exactly.
And those colors together mix and make other colors, and that's a great representation of the LGBTQI plus community. We are all diverse. We are all different. We have different personalities and different uh, things that drive us and motivate us and make us happy and make us crazy and sad.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, there's so much. And there's more flags. Did you know that? There's a few more
yes.
flags. Have you ever seen any of these flags? I've seen the progress one a lot.
Mm-hmm.
The transgender one. Obviously, we have the traditional one. But you can see we have a lot of representation in the pride flag, which is, you know, sometimes some people call it the rainbow flag, the LGBTQIA plus flag. But for me, it really represents a social movement of visibility, right? Almost like there's a flag of peace. It's like there's a flag of you're accepted here.
Well, and I think this gives a good indication of just as the heterosexual community has different types of, they have different parts of their community. We have different parts of our community. And as someone who came on to join the Pride Board in early 2019 and did not ever get exposed to many of these aspects of the community, it is very eye-opening and comforting to know that that this broad spectrum of our community, we're everywhere.
Yes.
Every part of people's lives.
Yep.
And visibility means so much to be able to publicly state that you are in this spectrum of our community, and there's value in that. And it's very educational and very informative, and it's great to know that we have all these wonderful assets in our community.
Exactly.
I went to Emory University for seminary in Atlanta. And at seminary, we had an official LGBT group, and the group was called Sacred Worth. And for me, that wrapped up it. We are, each person, each human being is sacred because we are all human beings. And I loved that name, Sacred Worth. I am sacred, and everyone is sacred. And I don't know really know where I was going with that, but the flag tells me I mean something. I am a whole human being, and I deserve whole rights.
Oh, another drop the mic moment. Boom. I love that. I am a whole human being, and I deserve the whole of the rights, right? You deserve them all, right? It is a human right to exist as you want to exist, right? So to just go a little bit further, I want to start the conversation by going a little bit deeper into what we really talk about when we talk about the dimensions of diversity. So when we're talking about LGBTQ, I think as we're educating the community right now, I know a lot of people who have questions about LGBTQ, you know, they may have even anxieties about talking about these issues, right? And I think the problem here is that from my experience, what I found is that if we don't really understand, for example, what the letters LGBTQIA plus mean, we may maybe even get them in the wrong order, or we get them all mixed up. As adults, we need to be okay with that because we're all learning. And I found that when we don't know what to do, sometimes as humans, we don't know what to say, and we don't say or do anything. And so I would say very strongly that the reason that we don't have as much progression as we need in the world is because some people are paralyzed because they don't have the language, right? So I'm hoping right now today to just very swiftly go through some information, because it's okay if you don't know. If you don't ask, and if you don't try to learn, then you're not helping, right? So for us, it's an opportunity for us to learn, but also share the information that we know. And it's okay if you get the letters wrong. It's okay not to know what they mean. It's okay not to even include a letter here or there. Like, it's totally okay because we're all learning, right? And I hope you all will agree. Like, nobody does the community work wrong. Everybody's learning, and we all have things to learn. So, and I know I'm always learning every day. I learned literally just how many hours ago, maybe 12 hours ago, from Tom and Randy. Totally educated me on some information that was critical to this presentation today. So I just want to put on the screen right now a slide that's representative of our dimensions of diversity. You know, understanding our diversity as humans is all about understanding that as ourselves, we have to recognize the differences and understand that each individual human is unique. You know, respecting each other, just like all our panelists have said, is all about knowing that we're similar as humans, but we're so different. But we have to be able to create relations where we all are able to communicate and work together regardless of our similarities, our differences. And in so many ways, I would say, you know, when we're looking at the dimensions of diversity, age, gender, ethnicity, sexual orientation, worldviews even, right? Political affiliations, educational attainment. We can go on and on talking about all the spectrums of diversity. But for today, in celebration of Pride Month, I want to bring to you what we know as the gender onion. Have y'all ever heard of the gender onion before?
No, I had not.
Well,
That's news to me.
New to you? Okay. Well, I was happy enough to be invited to a Harvard presentation. So there was a Harvard professor who was giving an explanation to us about all people having gender identity and sexual orientation, right? So I want to just kind of talk through the gender onion, which I thought was revealing to me, and it kind of painted a better picture for me to understand what we actually mean when we talk about gender. So when we talk about your sex assigned at birth, that's the first phase of your gender identity and your sexual orientation. The second is your inner sense of gender, which is your gender identity. How do you feel you represented in your gender? The third level of the onion is how gender is outwardly communicated. And then the fourth is how gender is perceived by others. And what I liked about the presentation that was given at Harvard was that these are all separate, but they're all interrelated elements that really inform the full gender of the person. So for example, when you see an onion at HEB or wherever we are, the grocery stores, the outside of the onion is what you're seeing, what you're perceiving, but the outside looks nothing like the inside. Would y'all agree?
Yes.
And so that's the point here, is that if you want to communicate and connect with people, you have to dig deeper, right? And I like that. Do y'all agree with this onion analogy?
Yeah.
Lisa, one of the things that I see in this is the very first one, the core of it, the sex assigned at birth, is something that is outside of the control of the individual, where every other layer that's on there is controlled by the individual as they grow and mature and age and get to understand who they are as a person. So I think it's kind of interesting that what's at the very base, the very beginning of this is someone else controls it, whereas everything else after that is under your control, is under your belief, your philosophy, your identity.
Yes, yes. And I guess what I would even say here, just a step further, Tom, is level 4, right, which is our gender perception, is actually, we may not have control over that, right? Because I think that's where we're going to talk about pronouns in a little bit, but that's where that comes in, right? Social norms, gender, norms in our communities. When you see somebody, do you have bias based off what you see as a representation of a gender, right? Maybe that person does not identify by what you see. Do you all agree?
Yes.
All right.
And also, I really like this gender onion, this diagram, this visual here, because it reminds me how us as people, even, we're very much like onions. We're very much layered, as you will too. So that's one of those things that I believe everybody should be, more open-minded, because if we try to, just meet somebody new and just assume that they, identify one way, or that maybe they believe something is a certain way, I really don't think we should have those notions in our head. I think we really need to meet people and just perceive them, as a blank slate, and get to know them in their own, and through their own understanding and how they're comfortable. Because sometimes I think we assume too much, and then that's where the awkwardness, and then that's where the divisiveness starts to come in.
Yes. And
it was explained to me one time, human beings naturally, we don't want to be outcast. We don't want to be, for fear of being made fun of or persecuted. Well, the LGBTQIA community, sometimes we walk on the outside of regular, I won't say normal, regular society, because we don't always fit the norms of what people, society has dictated as normal. But being on the outside can be a positive advantage because it gives us a different perspective of life, how people perceive each other, and how diverse we are, and how beautiful that can be. So, looking from the outside in can be a positive adventure. You know, it's if you can let go of the fear of that, and it takes time to do that, looking from outside in can be an advantage too.
Wow. Keyword here being positive adventure. Wow. I love that.
That was great.
Yeah, that was great. I love it. And so the next part I want to just kind of share of is, let's talk about the letters, right? I think a lot of people sometimes are like, I can't say it, so I'm not going to say it, right? So we're just going to tell you, what do they mean? LGBTQIA plus means L represents lesbian, gay is G, B is bisexual, T transgender. Q actually has two representations. You could be queer or it could be questioning, right? We have I for intersex and A for asexual. And the plus is an umbrella term that, quite frankly, is used to cover all the identities that we may need to acknowledge, but are not represented in the acronym. Does that make sense to y'all?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And so how do y'all represent this acronym? Do you expect everyone to say this acronym? How do you expect people to represent the community in terms of the verbiage of LGBTQIA+.
At the Mosaic Project, South Texas, Pride Corpus Christi, we struggled with this. Early on, it was just LGBT. And then we have expanded to become more inclusive. We wanted to be listening and understanding of the full community. So we've extended the representation to the full alphabet of LGBTQIA+. And because that's an organization, we are there to represent the entirety of the community. So I think it's important for us to use that, to use all of that anytime we can in signage and in speaking, in public representations, that we as an organization represent that entire community. And I think it's, unfortunately, those who criticize the LGBTQIA+ community perceive it as always dealing about sexual identity, as opposed the term sex, as opposed to the fullness of the person's personality, talent, skills, knowledge, compassion, empathy, all the qualities that make up the person. That's what those things are, the same things that make up a hetero person as make up an LGBTQI+ person. It just drives me nuts that there's such a focus on the sexual aspect as opposed to the personality, the qualities of an individual. And I think we want to stress the quality of individual, the value of an individual, the dignity of an individual, as opposed to some aspect that is of nobody else's business. Right.
I'm so glad you said that. And actually, it very swiftly ties into the next part, which is talking about the gingerbread person. Have y'all, not the gingerbread person, the genderbred person. See, I got it the other way. Have y'all ever heard of the genderbred person?
No, not since today.
Yeah, well, oh my gosh, this is so interesting. So for me personally, learning about the genderbred person was interesting because I heard about it. Actually, there was a podcast, it's a UK podcast where they talk about the spectrum, right, of identities, and they represent this thing called the genderbred person. And it's really like, as you can see from this image, it's like a deconstruct of gender and sexuality. So Tom, when you were talking about how a lot of people, when they see the LGBTQIA+ community, all they think about is the sexual orientation, that's just one part of it, right? There's a whole intersection of your brain, your heart, right? It's this your expression too, right?
And your relationships that you have with others.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. So this graphic to me really emphasizes that, you know, there's a distinct but also disconnected spectrums of our gender identity, our gender expression, our biological sex, our sexual attraction, right? Who we're attracted to. And if you actually translate the letters LGBTQIA+, you can actually see that the LGB part is the attraction part. Who are you attracted to, right? Who are your emotions attracted to, right? So that's the link. I think I want to say that that's the heart. So that's who you attracted to. And then the T and the I is the gender part. So that's the brain, right? That's kind of like what you think about yourself in terms of, for example, your masculinity or your femininity, right? Mm-hmm. And then the Q is either queer or questioning, right? You're questioning whether you're fitting in one spectrum or the other, because it's always fluid. Do you agree? Like, I think as we're growing as humans, we're always changing and evolving and becoming who we're meant to be, you know, become the best version of yourself, which actually means grow in your being. And then the plus is the umbrella term. So if you've never heard of the genderbred person, this is really a great expression of understanding why it's important to pay attention to who you are. But I also want to bring in our pronouns. So if you haven't noticed, I'm actually going to give a little bit of a spotlight to Crystal and Tom. Thank you so much for using your pronouns in your name titles. So for those of you who don't know, using pronouns on a person's name is how you actually give validity to representing a person, how they want to be represented. So Tom and Crystal, maybe let us know, why did you select your pronouns? Tom, do you want to get us started?
Sure. I think my use of pronouns is evolving. We'll talk about in a minute about the art exhibit that's going on at La Palmera, but the wonderful young man, individual who is curating the show is gender fluid and uses the they, them pronouns. Some of the other artists that exhibit in the space are also gender fluid and use different pronouns. And I found it difficult initially because of my perception, the way I have traditionally been brought up of identifying someone as their outside male or female form, that I didn't understand their gender expression. And out of respect for these individuals, needing to learn how to properly identify them and value them. So I've started, when I understand that someone uses that, I try to change my speech pattern to use those, the they, them, or if they prefer she, her. Mm-hmm. It's a respectful thing to do. And it's a learning process. As a mid-50s cisgendered gay male, I'm having to learn a new way of speaking and thinking, because I had not been exposed to that for most of my life. So as I'm becoming exposed to it, I'm understanding the desire of these individuals to be respected and to be to use the terms that properly identify who they are, their truth, and their life. So anytime we can, when we're involved in these kind of activities, we want to use we want to have the gender identification, the pronouns listed on things like Zoom calls and podcasts and things like that.
Love it. What about you, Crystal? Dana. Go ahead, Dana. Sorry.
Some years ago, I attended, it was like a 5-week, 1-hour class, and a medical doctor explained from a scientific point of view, you know, the chromosomes and the, you know, all the stuff that makes us up biologically and chemically. And his conclusion was, and he explained this through science, that there aren't just two genders, and we know that, and we understand that. He said it's endless between males on one end, females on the other, and there are endless genders in between. And that made sense to me because I definitely don't fit in the female slot. I'm more toward the male slot, but I don't feel like I need to transgender, but almost. So that helped me to even understand myself. I don't have to be one or the other or closer to this or closer to that. And, Tom and I were talking about this the other day, and Tom probably remembers this too. When the acronym first came out, it was GLBT. And somewhere along the line, someone within our community, some wonderful gay men said, you know what? Women have to live in this patriarchy. So let's change the acronym to LGBT. That was great. But Tom and I were talking about the other day about trying to learn the pronouns and be respectful of other people. And I would just say to those folks, please be patient with us. You can teach an old dog new tricks, and we are trying, and we love you.
I love it.
That was beautiful, Dana. Thank you for sharing on that. So the reason that I'm using the she, her pronouns is because, again, just to like echo Tom too, I do feel it is respectful within the LGBTQIA plus community, excuse me, to be able to promote that visibility and that comfortability of of letting others know how you identify. And honestly, just growing up, I didn't always like being a girl. I sometimes would be annoyed and frustrated with even the, I guess, feminine aspects of myself, if that makes sense. So I guess now that I'm older and I've matured and I've seen, just all the struggles that women as a minority group, because we are the largest minority group, has had to go through, I realized that I really should wear my femininity as a badge of honor and strength instead of, kind of shying away from it and always wanting to just play with the boys or be a tomboy, which there's nothing wrong with that either. That's just as valid as, being proud of my womanhood. It's just one of those things that it was kind of almost like a learning curve, if you will, of really and truly accepting my own femininity instead of feeling like it was something that made me vulnerable. It's actually something that makes me stronger, if that makes sense. So that's why I think it's good for me to start practicing using my pronouns more often.
I love it. So we're definitely going to encourage everybody who's watching to consider using the pronouns, because I guess it gives space for people who do have other representation. And Tom, did you have something to add?
Yeah, I think it goes back to the term JEDI that you use, that the show is all about. It includes justice. Having those pronouns and identifying as one of the spectrum, and especially for the gender fluid folks, in terms of, say, criminal justice, or there may be other legal reasons, but having that the public perception, the legal recognition of the different genders and the different spectrum can help ensure justice when that's an issue.
Mm-hmm.
So that trans individuals are placed appropriately in the criminal justice system, or legally recognized with driver's licenses and government identifications, and things like that. So having the proper pronouns and the proper legal identifications for the different alphabet that we have, the spectrum of the LGBTQI plus population, is of critical importance for the things that this program is all about: justice, mm-hmm. diversity, and inclusion.
I love it. Thank you so much, Tom. And so, as you can see on this slide, the commonly used pronouns are he, him, she, they, them. They could be she, her, hers, he, him, his. There's so many ways. An example would be, for example, my friend Crystal likes riding her bike after work, sometimes I go with her. Or if, for example, if I represented as they, them, I would just represent my friend Lisa likes riding their bike after work. Sometimes I go with them. So you just literally just take the representation of the person. And I mean, the point here is that the language is ever evolving, but you have to be part of the conversation. It's like you have to check into humanity. So I always say part of being a human is to check into the humanity of who we are, because what matters is learning who people are and respecting the language that they use for themselves. So now with this little bit of foundation, I did definitely want to jump straight back into a Q&A with our guests today and ask, how can our community, we are all here in our Coastal Bend community, South Texas community, how can we build an atmosphere of inclusion regardless of our personal or religious views? And I guess maybe we can start with whoever unmutes themselves first will go first. Feel free to jump in. Are you pointing at anyone? Tom, do you want to go first?
Okay, sure. Why not?
Yeah.
The first thing you should do is expect and demand respect and dignity from your bosses, your coworkers, your elected officials, your government officials, and ask that policies respect and dignify you and value you, give the LGBTQIA plus community the same rights, not special rights, the same rights as everybody else. We provide essential services. We are of value to the community. We are professional. We are compassionate. We are everything that the rest of the community is. We just happen to love someone differently than they do, and there's nothing wrong with that, and that should be completely unimportant to job performance. So we need to demand and expect equality and justice from our work, from our schools, from our government, and from our organizations that we're a part of.
Love it. Well said. Crystal, Dana, you have anything to add?
I would, to piggyback off of Tom, I learned a long time ago and finally got it through my thick head that if someone disapproves of my life, that's their problem. It's not mine. So I don't have to own that. And I don't have to explain it. I don't have to give reasons why. And that is because I am an American citizen. I love my country. I have served my country. I pay my taxes. I have always worked hard for a living. I love and respect my neighbor and the stranger. And isn't that what an American is? To do your duty. And, the corporate world many years ago, I guess it's been about 30 years ago, the corporate world realized, hey, wait a minute. Gay people wear Timex watches and they buy Nike tennis shoes and they fly Delta Airlines. Maybe we should be more accepting. As a minister, it's frustrating because the church, the Universal Christian Church, is still dragging along, trying to, different denominations trying to enter the puzzle or struggle not to enter the puzzle. But I think to wrap it up, I just say, if someone has a problem with you, that's exactly what it is. It's their problem, not yours. You don't have to own it.
Wow. So well said.
Yes, and I totally agree with that, Dana, because it's one of those things. I mean, being who you are, it can sometimes not be a whole walk in the park, right? But in order to be within your community and be true to your community, I mean, you have to be who you are, even if it's your own personal struggle sometimes. And that's why I believe visibility is so important, and advocacy is super important, because I mean, before, when I was still a little bit younger and kind of like, you know, going through, you know, questioning my own sexuality, and then realizing very well that I was not a heterosexual person. And I started to realize that even growing up in a very religious home, they didn't necessarily preach hate to anyone specifically, but they didn't also preach full acceptance either. And that was a big struggle, even within our own, you know, family home, to where I didn't sometimes feel accepted. And that's when I was still just questioning myself. And so that was a huge thing for me, to go through, if you will, that turmoil in a sense when I was younger, to feel like I was loved, but I wasn't necessarily like fully accepted because I was still all over the place. So I really do believe that even if you just talk with your peers, and even let's say you go to a job interview and you're not too sure, like you want to work there, but you don't know how accepting they are, right, of everybody. If they're an equal opportunity employer, I believe you can hold them to that. I mean, I believe all freaking corporations and legitimate businesses and jobs should be an equal opportunity employer, because not only is the, you know, LGBTQIA plus community valid, we are just as hardworking and we are just as strong as anybody else, you know, with outside the community. So, and we just like want to be accepted. We don't want special rights. We want equal rights. So I believe that coming to your truth, even if it takes a little while, or you have to ask some awkward questions to your friends or your peers within that community, I believe it's totally necessary, and it's completely okay to be asking questions even about yourself in a sense, you know. So that's what I believe, is that we need to be more accepting of people's journey, if that makes sense, because it's not always going to be a, you know, a straight and narrow journey. Sometimes it's going to take some twists and turns, and you're going to really find out who you are in that.
And you know, if I could jump back in and add a couple more things, the LGBT, we vote, and you know, the people in Washington, our state governments, they have realized we're a large section of society, and we have power in our vote. So that has helped our community as a whole. I learned the construction industry in the military, and then stayed in the construction industry in the civilian world for 20 something years. And I actually, this has been about 15 years ago, on a job site one time, I don't remember how the subject came up, but this straight guy came up that I told him, I said, look, you know, I'm a lesbian, blah, blah, blah. And so he was uncomfortable with that for a second, because he'd been hitting on me for like 2 weeks. And finally said, look, I'm a lesbian. So he stood there for a minute and he was very uncomfortable. And then he said, and I don't think he was making it up, he was being honest. He said, you know, I knew a woman that was like you once. I said, you mean a lesbian? He said, yeah, her name was Diane, and she lives in Texas. Do you know her? You know, and my point is, just because we identify this one group, LGBTQI, which we are all a part of, doesn't mean we have to all be the same or have the same interests. And so we need to celebrate that too. I mean, some people like horror movies and some people don't. Some people like Italian and some people like Mexican. Just because we're LGBT, I think we have to make sure we don't always walk on the outside of the circle. Does that make sense?
Makes perfect sense. I absolutely love what you said, actually, because it kind of made me think of when I tell people that I'm from Kenya, they think I know everybody in Africa. In like, oh, you know so-and-so in Botswana. Sure, you know, they're just like a few thousand miles away from me, and I happen to know everybody there. So it's just weird how that happens. And so it's the same thing, right? Just because you know somebody who may be a lesbian doesn't mean that now they know everybody in Texas who's a lesbian.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. Okay.
Corpus Christi pretty much the 6 degrees of Corpus Christi. Everyone kind of knows that. Just
Right.
here.
We know everyone. Okay, so I did want to bring up actually a slide that's representative of sexual orientation laws around the world. And the reason I wanted to bring this up is because I wanted to show that this map, actually, so before I even get started, this map was actually produced by the International Lesbian, Gay, Bisexual, Trans, and Intersex Society. And they actually do a lot of work every year to redo this map. They're constantly making it evolve. But I would say that when they produce this map, I really like it because it's color coded in such a way where, for example, you can see here, the more blue countries are more protective in their laws, right? So we were talking about laws and politics and just making sure that people are respected. So the LGBTQIA plus people are more protected in the blue states, well, sorry, the blue countries, right? And if you look at the more red countries, those are the countries where there's more repressive or even criminalizing and punishment for being who you are, right? So you would be criminalized. So when I think about this map, I always think about maybe if people are traveling, right? Do they pay attention to this? You know, have you ever had to consider, I don't know if you travel around the world. I know we've had COVID, so pre-COVID, maybe now post-COVID, as you're making your travel plans, do y'all ever look at this map and see where you will be accepted?
I haven't done a lot of international travel. I've been to Australia, which was a phenomenal country that was incredibly accepting. Their laws are very, very, their government and it has great protections for LGBTQIA plus community. And it was phenomenal vacation. So I go there again in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
If I looked at this, the redder ones are certainly places I would not venture. My husband and I, one, probably wouldn't be welcome, and it would be someplace we would not choose to go to because of the lack of acceptance.
Right. And I would even say, you know, I'm from Kenya, and we have laws where you will be put in prison for your representation. So that's, I mean, obviously a fight that we're fighting actively right now. I actually have somebody that I interviewed on a Power Up Hero show where she's actually in the fight to get the law changed in our government. But Crystal, did you have anything? I think you unmuted yourself.
Yes. So honestly, this map is like eye-opening to me because like I already knew that, you know, not everywhere in the world is accepting, right, at all, unfortunately, of, you know, LGBTQIA plus people. But even my own boyfriend, he's actually from Russia, and he's let me know he grew up there pretty much until he was about 14. So he came over here to America like when he was still in middle school, and we've since obviously met up and are now together. And he's let me know, you know, now that Pride Month is here, that it's so different for him here because we openly celebrate, you know, Pride, and that's totally okay. And it's a great time, you know, not that people still don't deal with, you know, pushback, right, and discrimination, unfortunately. But over there in Russia, it's like you don't even talk about it, because if you talk about it, they're gonna think, you know, you're part of that community, and it's not okay over there. And there's even slurs that are used that I'm not going to use right now for respect of my community, that, you know, if you even so as protect those people, let's say you're not even a part of the community, but you stand up for somebody who's being discriminated against because of their sexuality, you could also get imprisoned or even killed at that point. And that just breaks my heart for him, because he himself is not a completely straight individual, and it's sad that he felt like he had to be repressed over there and he had to be kept to himself because he really couldn't be honest about his sexuality and feel safe in his, you know, in his own, you know, mother country, if you will. So it's definitely something that's enlightening to me, in you know, not in the best way, but it's something that we all have to work towards. Is a stronger community, even internationally, because it matters. You know, these people everywhere, all around the world, need to be seen and need to be validated and need to know that they are loved and valued and can be safe, even, you know, being who they are. So
yes, I love that. I love hearing that. And even when we think about the workplace, I'm going to switch to the next graphic, which actually shows when we talked about the workplace, I think, Tom, you were very representative on this when your explanation about inclusivity in the community. These are the top, as of 2021, these are the top 50 companies for diversity in regards to you feeling safe. And I know our graphic that shows live stream is blocking Kohl's, which is actually not a grocery store. It's a store where you can buy clothing and shoes and just different, it's a department store that we have. So I always say, like, how important is it to represent where your dollars go to organizations that are supportive of the community?
Incredibly important. I wouldn't feel comfortable spending my dollars in places that obviously discriminate against the LGBTQI plus community. I make a conscious effort. There are certain businesses that are known to be discriminatory and treat the LGBTQI plus community they treat them discriminatorily, and I don't visit those. I don't patronize those businesses.
Mm-hmm. That's good to know, right? And also for work, right? So when I think about places that people may go to work, it's important to know that these are the places that you may be more comfortable working, right? Where you can be the best version of yourself working. But I also wanted to bring in just why representation matters. We said the word representation a lot during this show. And so I wanted to point out some prominent, openly LGBTQIA plus people in the media, right? Isn't it great when we have representation in the media, celebrities, right, Crystal?
Yes, ma'am. I definitely believe that is super important. And even myself, being a bisexual woman, there is, a such thing as like a bi erasure, where basically we invalidate individuals that, identify as bisexual. And so again, like you said, representation and visibility is super important, especially within the media. So that's why we're here.
And even in politics, right? I think we have seen some excitement around politics, right, Tom?
This last election, the last few elections are really opening up doors for our LGBTQI folks to be in positions where they represent us in high levels of government, to make sure that policies and practices and laws are made to protect our community. And it's wonderful to see these folks stepping up, and that they're not just the LGBTQI plus community that votes for them, but the ally community. And it's because they perform well, they represent, they do their job very well. And that's why they are in these positions of authority. And the LGBTQI plus part is just one aspect of who they are and what they advocate for. We are so well-rounded, our interests and knowledge and experience is so much more vast that we can perform any task we're given, qualified, and we have that experience, and we do it well.
Yeah.
These folks are a great representation of people who perform their job well and represent their community and their constituents effectively. And that's why they are elected and appointed to these positions.
Yes. And I want to give a shout out to Randy, who is part of our Mosaic project of South Texas, Pride Corpus Christi, for giving me an opportunity to represent Rufus Gifford, who is the first picture you see, the former ambassador to Denmark, and now was just nominated by President Biden to be the chief protocol at the State Department, which would make him responsible for pretty significant tasks. And then we also have our Mayor Pete, as we know, who's the current Secretary of Transportation. And I think, he is the highest ranking openly gay member of the US government right now. And Tom, you gave me some great people. Go ahead, Tom.
Governor Polis from Colorado, Mayor Lightfoot from the city of Chicago. There's a couple of states that have, Maine has an openly gay speaker of its House of Representatives. We as a community are elevating and achieving, and not just because we're LGBTQIA plus, but because we perform our jobs well.
Yes, yes. And with that, as we close the show, I want to tell you all what's going on here. Part of the Mosaic Projects of South Texas. I'm excited to be a board member, but I'm excited to also know behind the scenes what's going on. And so I want to let everyone know during this month of June, we have a lot of activities going on. Right, Tom? Right, Crystal? Right, Reverend Dana? We have so much going on. We're not having a parade, right? So we're just being conscious of the fact that we still have COVID. But we're having a parade, right? A pet parade.
Woof, 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 woof.
Woof, woof, woof. And Reverend
So
Dana,
next Saturday.
yeah, isn't this at your church, Reverend Dana?
It is. It's at 5525 Lipes Boulevard, but you can Google us. We're also on Facebook. Lineup for the parade starts at 9:30. And then we'll parade down from St. Paul. The whole walk is only like a half a mile, so it's not long. But right next door to St. Paul is a senior living facility, Elon. So they're going to bring a lot of their residents out to watch the parade. And so we'll parade through their parking lot with the animals and stuff, and that'll give a lot of them joy. Then we're going to get back on the sidewalk, continue down, and there is a convent. Tom, what's the name of that convent?
The Incarnate Word and Blessed Sacrament.
Yes. So the nuns are going to come out and say hey, and we'll get to say hey to them too, and look at all the pets dressed in their pride attire. Then we'll come back, and across the street from St. Paul is another senior living facility. So they're going to bring their residents out. So not only do we get to express our pride, our animals are going to help us do it, and we get to bless other people along the walk too, especially our elderly folks in the community. There's going to be prizes. Tom has acquired a couple of really great gift baskets from a couple of different pet shops in town for first and second prize for the pet dressed are showing their pride the most in their get up. We have free hot dogs. We have free bottled water
From Wiener Schnitzel.
From Wiener Schnitzel.
Rainbow Pride sponsor.
Awesome.
HEB.
Yeah, HEB is a sponsor as well, for a green level sponsor. L&F Distributing is providing us free bottled water. 7-Eleven Stripe stores are providing Gatorade. So we have a number of, and again, Earthwise Pets and Whole Pets store, the two stores in town, have donated gift baskets to us to give away as prizes. We encourage everyone to come out and dress up in their pride attire and with their pets and help and go on this walk.
And Tom, you want to tell them about the rescues that are going to be there?
Yeah, there are a couple other things. We're going to have a bounce house for kids, but Canines and Kitties, which is a local pet charity, they take pets that they can't be adopted here in town. We have too many strays, and they take them up to other communities and have them get adopted in those communities that have a need for pets. And they will have their brand new pet transport bus on site. They've never had it out before. It's brand new, and this is how they take pets to other communities to be adopted. So Canines and Kitties, which is a charity supported by the Texas Riviera Empire, which is one of our sponsors, is going to be there. Dana, you talked to there's another charity that may be involved as well. Chris?
Yes. There's going to be a kissing booth where you can pay a buck and have your picture taken kissing one of the rescue dogs. Let's see what there'll be a prize for first and second place for the pet pride attire.
And local radio station, ICA Broadcasting, which is Planet, The Bull, and another station, are going to do a live broadcast and provide music on the site as well.
Wow.
And obviously this is all a family-friendly event.
Okay.
And so we'll not only have hot dogs and bottled water and all that stuff, we're also going to have a table set up with a smorgasbord of pet treats.
Ooh, sounds like a good time.
Wow. So that's this Saturday coming up on the 12th, the Paw Parade from 10 a.m. until it ends. Until
Noon.
noon. Until noon. Okay, so we'll have that until noon. And then we also have something else that's going on at La Palmera Mall right now. We have the Mosaic Project of South Texas is actually having an exhibit that's showcasing LGBTQIA plus artists. And so I want to kind of walk you through this, I guess, in picture format and give a shout out to Tom Tagliabue for being our photo. Thank you for the pictures, Tom.
Thank you. La Palmera has graciously donated a couple of spaces to us. They've donated the gallery up on the upper level by the children's play area. We have 30 pieces of art from approximately 20 plus artists, LGBTQI plus artists, some as young as 17, some in their 20s and 30s, emerging artists, some established. They cover everything from photography to sculpture to mixed media to various types of paint. So it's a great representation of the talent that's in this community. And some of them, it's their very first showing of their artwork in a gallery. And we got to provide that for Pride. It's a major thing.
Yeah.
If you go have lunch or dinner in the food court at La Palmera, there are going to be some little table tents that have some informational facts about the LGBTQI population in the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
Then in center court, you saw earlier the balloon selfie wall that's going to be up all month.
Mm-hmm.
And in addition, there's going to be 8 banners in center court with some inspirational quotes. And you can find out more about all the events that are going on at pridecorpuschristi.com, on our Facebook page, and on our Instagram account.
Yes. And actually, I want to talk about the event that's happening tonight, right? We have the Why Not Prom happening, and it's going to be at the Coastal Bend Wellness Foundation office that's on Holly Road. And I think we have Barton Bailey who's running the show on that, right?
Barton and Orlando Narvaez at the Pride Center, Coastal Bend Pride Center, are putting this prom on. Mm-hmm. It's for kids 13 to 18. The cost is only $10. And if there are those who have difficulty with that amount, there are ways for us to assist and make sure anyone, whether you're an LGBTQI plus youth or not, if you're an ally and a friend of someone, you're welcome to go. There's food, drinks, photo booths. There's going to be a young person who is going to be performing their very first drag show with a drag performer, a seasoned drag performer who has been teaching them, and they're going to be doing that as part of the show. So it's going to be a heck of an evening for those kids.
Wow.
I'm so happy that
What time does that start? What time is it?
At 7. It's 7.
7 o'clock. 7 o'clock. Thank you. I had to look for my card.
Yeah. 7 o'clock today. So today at 7 o'clock at the Coastal Bend Wellness Foundation. Just show up. Just show up.
There are lots of tickets available, kids. Yeah. Go.
Yes, just show up. And so with that, I also want to bring in Whataburger Field. We do have an opportunity with the Corpus Christi Hooks, right, on June 24th.
On June 24th is Pride Night at the Whataburger Hooks. The Whataburger Hooks. The Corpus Christi Hooks at Whataburger Field. Game time is at 6:05. I need to double check that, but the tickets are only $11 for reserved seats. You can also buy tickets on the berm for $5. The Hooks are doing something special as well. They're going to be selling caps with the double C Hook logo in rainbow colors. You also they will have special order t-shirts with that same logo that you'll be able to buy as well. So the Hooks are stepping up and doing Pride right.
Awesome. Thank you to Whataburger Field and Corpus Christi Hooks for your support. And then just to close it off, I just want to mention that we are still planning for our traditional larger Pride parade, right? And block party, right?
October 9th, parade is 2 o'clock, block party from 3 to 7. It'll be a downtown shoreline location. Which route we're going to take, we're not sure exactly yet.
Yep.
Crystal, you need to talk about your event.
Yes.
So to preempt the awesome parade and block party that we're going to have on October 9th, we're going to have Poetry Night Pride come back on October 2nd, which is a Saturday. And that will be there at the Coastal Bend Wellness Foundation. There's going to be more details to come, but we're definitely planning an awesome inclusive event where if you're a writer, but you're just still not too sure, how you feel about it, I mean, come to the open mic and come share your poetry and your prose and your words with us, and we'd love to hear it.
I
And
love
there's
it.
last year, 2019's event was a huge success. Major, we had
it was.
turnout. The performers were so talented. It was an amazing event.
It felt incredible just to be there in that energy, because if y'all recall, I didn't have my voice, so I was there, you know, to support and to be kind of a ghost host, if you will. We had our friend Mikhail help us, but it was just incredible, just everybody's talent and the acceptance and the love that you could feel just in that room. It was amazing. So yeah, we're definitely planning to knock that one out of the park even.
Love it. And we still have sponsorship opportunities for Pride. So if you do have any opportunity, we have from $250, right, to $5,000.
Right. $250 up to $5,000. We'll take any level because events cost money. It takes money to put on events.
Yes.
And do this right for our community. We have been blessed at Pride Corpus Christi with great support from the business community and from individuals and organizations. We're going to need lots of folks to be at the block party, vendors. We're going to have food trucks again. We have lots of folks wanting to be a part of this. So whatever level you want to be a part of, if you're from $250 up to $5,000, when you sponsor, you get a spot in the parade and a booth in the block party. So be a part of Pride Corpus Christi. Go to our website, go to our Facebook page. There's all kinds of information about sponsorship availability.
Love it. Thank you so much, Tom. And so in closing, I want to ask each of you to share with me your closing thoughts. And actually, I would want to know what advice would you share with anyone that you wish that somebody may have shared with you? You know, knowing what you know now, what advice would you share with anybody who's watching right now? Can we make that part of your closing thoughts?
I'll jump in real quick. I do want to give a plug for the weekend after the parade. We're having a family fun day, Pride Family Fun Day at St. Paul. All the great stuff, a petting zoo, free hot dogs, free bottled water. There's going to be candy and carnival games, bouncy houses. So that'll be a free family Pride event that'll be at St. Paul. I believe, Tom, I think it's the weekend after the parade or 2 weekends after. I can't remember.
We're going to do it the 30th. We'll have more information to come.
Yes, in October.
We wanted to make sure that we had some family fun events, family friendly events. So my closing thoughts are this. I heard this yesterday on a commercial, and they were it was a technology company, and they said, remember that growth isn't just about growing bigger. Growth is also about growing stronger. So I would encourage individuals to not only think about, growing bigger, whatever that may mean to you, but also growing stronger. And our community is growing bigger, and it is growing stronger, and the possibilities are endless.
Wow, love it.
I'm using that in my sermon tomorrow, by the way. I'm preaching on unity tomorrow. It's the title's "A House Divided Cannot Stand." So my sermon is about unity.
Okay, and so you preach at St. Paul, right?
St. Paul, 10:30 Sunday morning. Everyone, and we mean everyone, is welcome to come.
Okay, so if you're not in Corpus Christi, you're welcome to fly in.
Yeah, there you go.
There you go. Crystal, how about you? Knowing what you know now, what would you share with others in closing?
It's one of those things. Don't be afraid, to find out who you are, even if it is your own personal journey. I mean, but there's those that are here within the community that are here to support you. And I would just like to share this little tidbit about, the history of protest at Pride, because I thought this had such a great message within it, that since its beginning, Pride has been a political event. Although nowadays it may feel more like a party, protests have always been embedded in its very reason for existing. Pride has always been a protest against unjust systems, even when it's lighthearted and fun. So to that, I say, if you feel like you need a protest against your own family, against the norm that you feel like you're almost trapped in, I mean, you have a whole community here, LGBTQIA plus community, that is here to support you, even if you're feeling alone, or if you're feeling scared, or if you're just feeling unsure about, this part of your journey right now. We are here to remind you that you are not alone in these feelings, and that, you are loved and you are valued no matter what. So that's all I would like to say, that I wish I was taught that from the very beginning, and I kind of was, but it's good to be reminded of that, you know.
Love it. Wow. So much wisdom.
Thank you.
I'll close with something I heard the other day, and if folks say we're violating the laws of God, well, sorry, God does not make mistakes. You are perfect in His image. You are loved. You are valued. You are respected. I wish I knew then what I know now. My life would be different. I am blessed beyond measure with a loving husband and great family and friends. Yeah, there's some things I'd like to change, but please, living in fear, not living your truth is not a good way to live. So please join us, be proud, be loud. Let's get out there and celebrate Pride.
I love that. Join us, be loud, be proud. Let's get out there. Let's celebrate Pride. I absolutely love that, Tom. Thank you so much for sharing. And I guess in closing, from my perspective, I just want to tell y'all thank you so much for listening to the show. I know it's a lot of effort to participate in shows like this. So for those of you who are watching right now, thank you so much. On this show that we like to call JEDI Talks, we string the words together: justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion, and we put them in this order because JEDI is a nice catchphrase. But if we really think about it, the acronym of JEDI really should be the other way around. So I want to start off by asking us, how can we be more inclusive of others? You know, true and deep effort to understand and welcome people with different lived experiences than ours. That's how we foster diversity, because diversity brings many people with different stories, backgrounds, skills, and talents all to the same place, because we need the variety of perspectives, and we need it in a place that requires equity and sustainability. And so that's where the E comes in. Equity is about striving to give people the specific resources that they need to live up to their own individual and collective potential. And again, we cannot do this work because ultimately we must build a just society. And that's where the J comes in, for justice, a society where everyone, regardless of who they are, is equally able to live a full and meaningful life. Everyone has a different journey, so it's important to not make assumptions and to allow space for the human complexity and diversity to exist. I want to thank each and every single one of the panelists today. Thank you so much, Reverend Dana. Thank you so much, Crystal. Thank you so much, Tom. You all are amazing. You did such a great job, and thank you for being advocates of the JEDI way. And for those of you who are watching, thank you for tuning into the show. You are helping to ensure that people from all walks of life have a chance to experience what I like to call the power of living a full life. So if you want to find out more about the JEDI movement, you can go to www.poweruptalks.org/JEDI. And if you want to find out more about Pride Corpus Christi, you can go to www.pridecorpuschristi.com. And to close off the show, I want to let you know that we hope that anywhere and everywhere that you are watching, that you're able to subscribe. And we want to thank you so much for celebrating June as Pride Month. Any way and every way that you celebrate, we encourage you. So I want to ask y'all panelists to help me close out the show. We want to make it a Pride-worthy day today and a Pride-worthy month. But most of all, we want to make it, what was I going to say? Like, may the force be with you. So we're going to say
Pride Force.
Yeah, may the Pride Force be with
you.
Grab your lightsabers and may the Pride Force be with you. Hope you make today an amazing Pride-worthy day. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Have an amazing rest of your day. Bye.